All right, let's get going here. For those of you who just joined, welcome to our webinar today on Cabana 7 and beyond, Logz.io enhancements for success. Just a few housekeeping items before we get going. So feel free to ask any questions in the question box throughout the presentation, and we'll answer all of them at the end of the session. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. Also, you'll all receive a recording of the webinar afterwards, so no worries if you need to get up for a moment. So I'll leave the rest to Aryeh Fischler. He's Logz.io's product manager for our log management solution, and he'll be leading today's session. So Aryeh, we're ready when you are.
So hi everybody, and thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to attend this session and enhance your Kibana knowledge with us. Specifically learn about Cabana 7 and some improvements it brings to your day-to-day capabilities of log searching and troubleshooting. Well, this is me. You can get to know me a little bit better. I've been with Logz.io for over a year and a half now, based in Tel Aviv, and I'm focusing on product management for all the log analytics offering we have. I've been previously an engineer for more than 25 years now, so I've been around logging for a while, and we'll be happy to provide this session for you, working from home, as you can see, like most of the world these days. So let's start. Let's get started by discussing our agenda for today. First, I'd like to cover shortly how Logz.io vision is tied to open source products like Kibana and Elasticsearch. Next, we will discuss a bunch of new and redesigned features and some powerful capabilities introduced into Cabana 7. We will also explain how Logz.io enhances some of the functionality in Kibana in order to provide a more powerful product than the vanilla Kibana, with a set of tools and features that are implemented on top of the standard ELK. Naturally, we will see most of it in action also at the end. And as Charlie said, as we always do, we'll wrap the session with some Q&A. So feel free to submit your questions throughout the webinar. Okay, Logz.io, our involvement and expertise with the ELK stack as our main product is highly derived from a vision that open source products are the tools engineers really want to use for their observability needs. This is why we advocate the usage of open source, not only for log management, but a complete observability platform. We really like the possibility to provide popular, powerful open source tools, taking off the user's shoulders the need to maintain and manage those tools. Not only can you keep on using the open source products you know and hopefully like, but as you will see throughout this session, we added a huge amount of features that can turn ELK into a real monitoring tool and shorten your troubleshooting process substantially. So today, Logz.io is also offering additional open source products, infrastructure monitoring based on Grafana, and soon to be available a private beta of a distributed tracing solution based on Jaeger from Uber. So as you can see, on a side note, if you're interested to learn about Jaeger or join this beta, just contact me at the end. Okay, since we released a new Kibana version in Logz.io not long ago and moved from version 6 to 7.2, we learned quite a lot about the things that make users struggle with Kibana. So we decided to put a bunch of resources to help as many people as possible understand and learn about new features introduced in Cabana 7, as well as existing ones that can now be found in other locations on the screen. Some of the features we will discuss about got a new designed UI, and also we wanted to show how the Logz.io add-on features blend into the new Kibana interface and let you know how they improve the overall experience you can get from your log management system. Well, as much as I'd like to, we will not be able to cover everything Kibana has to offer, but we'll highlight a bunch of interesting tools. With this notion in mind, let's jump right into covering the major changes introduced in Cabana 7. Okay, just for a general impression, here is the bird's eye view of both Cabana 6 on the top and the current one, which we have inside Logz.io, version 7.2 at the bottom. You don't need to get into the details here, but I wanted just to point out for you at a glance that so many things changed or relocated. The colored circles represent points we will emphasize in this session. Well, this is similar to the children's game. You probably all know, spot the differences. So let's move on, starting with the time range picker. This is always the main tool to fine-tune and lock on your root cause analysis when troubleshooting. Focusing on the right time is the first step in locating your incidents. Cabana 7 provides a totally new time picker that is much easier to use since it doesn't force a query to reload or push the whole page down as was in the past. It has rich functionality set all combined into one control panel. With the new time range tool, you can set a query period in several formats, and you have the flexibility of choice. The one at the bottom here, you can see that is activated from the calendar icon, is the most convenient control, in my opinion. It has a rich offering to quickly set your time range, either by typing some specific values at the top, using predefined periods here. And what you see right here before the bottom is kind of the first of several personalization capabilities that were missing from previous Kibana versions. They are represented in a list of predefined periods that were recently used by you specifically. Sorry. At the bottom here, you can see the powerful auto refresh option that turns your queries into live ones. This was also available before, but in different locations. So this moved to this control as well. And now it puts all the time-related functionality in a single place. You can set auto refresh intervals starting with 30 seconds. Moving to the action bar, this is the new location of all the main actions that can be executed on the different Kibana screens, whether this is Discover, where queries are run, or visualization and dashboard screens. You can start a new query or save a search. This was naturally available previously. And you have the possibility to share Kibana object, and this has been made simpler with a new share menu that displays different sharing options Kibana offers, together with the unique Kibana snapshots feature we added on top of Kibana. Next thing, sorry, let's go back a little bit here. Also, you can see here in the middle the inspect. It's a new and comfortable way to get more information on your search results. We will deal with that a little bit later. Also, we took all the Logz.io main functionalities that are here represented in the Create Alert button and the Insights, and we put them also as something comfortable in the same action bar with all the rest of the possibilities. Also, we will talk more about that later on. You have the filters here just below. The filters are a heavily used feature of Kibana. It simplifies the way to create queries, and it got a new look and feel from the ground up. With bigger and clearer controls, it is more user accessible now, and I will also talk about that later on. Let's move to the Logz.io enhancements that are added on top of the ELK. So our goal at Logz.io was always not just to provide you with the open source tools. the way they are. We call this webinar Enhancements for Success because part of our work is to provide more functionality that will really help you do things better and easier. Let's mention some extensions just to show you how they changed with Cabana 7. So first, it's the Create Alert button that, as we said, got on the action bar, and you have the Insights filter just next to it. Creating an alert is still done with the click of a button, taking your current search that you put in the search bar into the new alert screen. So once you write the search, and I will show it later on in the live demo, clicking the Create Alert automatically imports it to your new alert page. The Insights button will show what we call cognitive insights that were identified in your current search results. To the people not familiar with the Logz.io concept of cognitive insights, this is our clever method of automatically pointing you to potential problems in your logs using machine learning algorithms. The database that we create for the insights is scanned and collected from the public internet, from some knowledge hubs like GitHub, Stack Overflow, and other. And last here, I will mention the export that you see in the screenshot below. Well, the export option is something that allows you to download your results into a CSV file. Previously was limited to only 500 results, and we now extended that option to allow you to configure the downloaded number of results up to 50,000 records. This way you have more power to share more data and process it externally by your team. Do with it whatever you need. Personalization in Kibana. What we hear quite often from our users is the need for personalized options. Since we all repeat many of our actions on a day-to-day basis, we'd like to have our recent actions handy, ideally a click away. So Cabana 7 added some possibilities here. And it's actually for the first time in the Kibana application. You already saw that in the time range picker with your predefined time periods, but more than that, you now have access to all your latest actions in Kibana from a single clickable list. You can check it out by opening the clock icon here at the top. This opens a list of all recent like dashboard views, visualization views, or saved searches. And with one click of a button, you can activate it or access it again. A very, very quick and comfortable way. Okay, we mentioned the inspect. So let's go back to it a little bit. It's a new thing. It's a cool function that provides you some valuable insights into your search results. If you're on Discover, you can see it at the top. You can see the number of hits, some numbers about the time the query took, which is most of the time really meaningful to you. And at the bottom, you see the same inspect button when it's activated from a visualization. What happens is that and you can see that on here on the right, that the inspect opens a data table with all the values, the data values, the data set that actually constructed the visualization. And again, with a click of a button on the download CSV, you can have a file that includes all these data points. Moving into the filters, of course, filters are not a new concept in Kibana, but it changed dramatically. They have a new look and feel, and this is a good opportunity to emphasize them again. So why do we need filters actually? Writing a Lucene query may sometimes be a challenge. The filters are a simple way around this obstacle, providing you a quick way to generate search results and quickly filter on your saved searches. The filtering experience has been gradually improved from version to version in Kibana, resulting in a new filtering experience provided in this version. So in Kibana 7, each filter now has a drop-down menu. This is similar to what you see here. So it has a new drop-down menu that you can use to apply various actions on the selected filters, such as enabling, disabling, pinning it across the Kibana applications. You also have the ability to manage all the filters you've applied in several bulk actions. So you do it using the toggle action, and you can easily show all of them or hide them together with one action. Moving on. This is what I called some fun stuff. Why? Because sometimes it's not just about functionality, but rather usability and the overall user experience you have. So at the top, you see breadcrumbs that were introduced to Kibana. It's an easier secondary navigation when you need to switch between visualizations or dashboard, or just go back to discover for another search. They are also showing your exact location in a clearer way. At the bottom, following the Grafana popularity, Kibana slowly transitioned into offering a dark mode as well. So previously available in dashboards only, but now the dark side is now available across all Kibana. Since this is an ongoing debate among users, you are free to choose your preference in this everlasting debate between light and dark. Okay, this is a cool thing we added recently, and we called it the Cabana Advisor. So if you ever search Kibana using the Lucene query language, you might have bumped into some difficulties and challenges receiving the expected results. We mentioned that the filters are a way to get around it. But if you need really to search or to write phrases in Lucene, it's not always that easy. So we mapped a collection of cases that we see repeat with our users. And instead of the need to dive into documentation or contacting our support, we just show you the correct hint and the recommendation on suggested steps to resolve the issue. So this appears right below the search box in a very clear way. For example, here, it might be very natural just to paste an IP address to search on, but unfortunately, it's not just working in Kibana as is, but if you add quotes around it, as you see below, you will get the search result you expected. I will wrap this collection of new features with a nice tip that I will show later on, which is very, very handy and allows you to create a quick visualization just from the search results. If you're afraid of creating a visualization in Kibana or just maybe you want to create your first one, this is, I think, a very useful tip and a simple way to create that. And what it does, it displays the value distribution of a field. So in Kibana, you will head to the list of fields, select the field you're interested in. For example, here it's the countries from where some requests came from. And when you open it in Kibana, you see just a limited list of countries. But if you use the visualize button, it will immediately create a distribution visualization of the countries that were part of your search results. And you can save it and use it later on and analyze it as you need. At this point, let me transition to our live demo. Okay, so here is Kibana in Logz.io. Naturally, you can go into dark mode if you want. Okay. Okay, so these are our logs, and let's take a use case, for example. Support gave us a call mentioning that our US customers have been getting some errors on the application. We need to investigate that. So we can use the filters to start limiting our search. We will open the filter, and to see the requests, we need to search for a type that is, let's say, Apache access logs. Okay, so we set that, and this limits our search already. We can also focus on the US customers. So we'll look for the GeoIP, the GeoIP field with the country name, and filter for United States. And using the new time picker, we will extend our range. You see, I have all these periods predefined, so I'll just select the last 24 hours. And we see that I have like more than 10,000 requests here. And what I want to show you is something that is unique to Logz.io, and that's the insight I was mentioning before. When I open the insights box, I can see two subjects that are mentioned here. And these are like things that were identified in my logs and recognized as a potential problem. And when I select the specific insight, which sounds like a security problem, like a shell exploit that I want to investigate, I will open it to examine the log and check the Insights tab to see what does it say. So I see there is a link to an article, and I can read about it and understand if this might indicate some potential problem within my logs, some security issue that maybe I need to investigate. And I can do that later on. If I remove the filter, I go back to the same display of all the logs. And as we said, I want to see the errors. So to check the errors, I cannot define a filter because in Apache access logs, the errors are the response code returned in the values of 400 to 599. So I will need to write some Lucene to get that. It's already here typed, but I want to show you something else. A very common mistake is to use the range phrase in Lucene with the lowercase 2. And you can see here that immediately it creates a lot of frustration around users. I see it all the time. So you can see here that the Cabana Advisor reminds you that you should fix your query and put an uppercase 2, and this will work. So now I will run my search and see, oh, I have like more than 900 errors. Maybe I need to export them just to send it to some people. So I can change the number here because it's not limited anymore to 500, and I can export all the list. And now we can set to like investigating more what's happening with these errors. So for example, I can analyze a specific parameter to see how are the errors distributed. So I will look for the response field. It's a big list of fields here, yes, but they're alphabetically sorted. I will find the response and open it. And here, as I showed you previously on the presentation, you have some distribution of values. It shows only the top 5 values, but with a click of a button, I now see all the distribution of my values. So I can see, for example, if there is a specific error that repeats too much, I can go and check this specific error, or I can check other parameters. I can use the inspect here, like to see the values and maybe download them from here as two types of CSV file. Naturally, I can save the visualization, like call it distribution of errors. And even share it. Like there are several ways to share it, either with a link or use the Logz.io specific snapshot, which allows you to like send it to emails or any other endpoint you might create. It can be Slack, and it can be many additional customized endpoints that you can create with Logz.io. So I can like say, hey, check out these errors and send it to myself, for example, and boom, it's shared. Okay, so we can dig around with the error, understand what are the reasons for this error to appear, but at the end, we know that this might appear once again. We might get some more errors in the future, and we want to be notified not by support that this is happening, but rather with an alert that can notify us at a very early stage that something goes wrong. So if you check it here, I have my filters and my query already defined to identify this specific problem. All I need to do is click the Create Alert button, and I'm transferred to the new alert page. So you see here that my query and filters were imported to the page, and all I need to do is just set some simple stuff like extensive error rate from Apache, and I can set a threshold saying, okay, if I have more than 100 of these, it's a very, very severe situation and I want to be notified. All I need to do is add a notification endpoint like I described before. It can be email, Slack, or any customized webhook. And boom, you're ready, and you have this alert to notify you on any future occurrences of this problem. Well, I think we're about done. Let's see. Okay. I want to summarize this by just showing you at a glance the difference between the open source Kibana that you see on the left, which is pretty powerful and allows you to like get a lot from your logs. But on the right, you see that there are important additions that allow you to do so much more with your log analysis and be prepared for any incident that might happen on your production systems. So this is time for questions, and Charlie, what do we have?
Hey, Aryeh, thanks for the presentation and for the demo. We got a couple good questions from the crowd here. First one I want to ask is, what's the easiest way to ship my Kubernetes logs from AWS?
Okay, so let me just switch back to the system. And you can see here on the top, this is our Logz.io main menu with different products. But one of the important sections is send your data. And it is like a centralized location for instructions on how to send almost any possible technology, logs from any possible technology to our system. So it can either be services from AWS, where you have EKS, as the Kubernetes service from AWS, or any other service or technology you might think of. We have tens of integration options, and it's really easy to follow the instructions and implement that, and have your logs in Logz.io indexed by Elasticsearch in minutes.
Cool. Thanks, Aryeh. Next one. How do you add a query for operators like greater than or less than in Lucene syntax mode?
Okay.
So let's see. How do you add a query where you need operators like greater than or less than in Lucene syntax mode? It seems to work in KQL mode, but maybe not for Lucene syntax.
Yeah, well, there is a representation in Lucene. I don't recall it off the top of my head. It's true that Lucene has sometimes not very intuitive ways to do that. I can follow up on this and just send you the exact syntax. But once you know it, it's pretty easy to implement it once again and just use it.
Got it. And next one is there a way to provision multiple channels for an alert? So to configure an alert to send not only to email, but also to Slack, for example.
Yeah, well, we have a section here on our settings that's called notification endpoints. And here you can define any notification endpoint almost that is available. We have some predefined ones, like you can see PagerDuty, we have Opsgenie, Big Panda, naturally Slack here. And when you don't find what you need, you can use a custom endpoint, which is based on webhooks, which is very flexible and allows you to set any URL with the relevant parameters. For example, a Zapier generic webhook can work here greatly. And you can all define later on, define all of this in the alert screen. When you have who to send it to, you can check any endpoint. You see here the list of endpoints. And additionally, you can add emails.
Great, thanks, Aryeh. And then the next one is, can you create an alert if using KQL, or does that need to be Lucene?
It's a very good question. Currently, KQL has a limitation for us. So if you need to create an alert, you will have to do it in Lucene. So when you switch to KQL, you will see that create alert is disabled and does not allow you to do that.
All right, and then the next one is, how do you manage logs that are multi-lines?
Well, this is part of the integration process. So either you can find it in the specific technology that you want to send. But I have to mention that we have a great customer support that is working 24/7. And these are not like bots that will keep you waiting. Normally they answer in minutes, and they can make sure to answer any integration question you might have and cannot find in the documentation. And if you have some configuration issues, they can also be answered immediately. And once you successfully ship your logs, you can use them to parse your logs into meaningful fields that will facilitate the way you search later on. It's very important to parse your logs after you ship them.
Great, we have one more question here. Can we use group by on multiple fields like we do in SQL?
Well, not directly, not in the search language, not in the search line here. You can aggregate on fields when you create a visualization. This is similar to the group by. Like this is a little bit what I showed previously when I showed the distribution of values for a field. It's like grouping by the field. And showing you the separate values and their quantity. Another location that helps you group by, and that's really meaningful, is in the alert. So here you have a group by option, and you can add, it's like added to your query that was imported or written manually. And then the alerting will happen based on the group by field. And I'll give an example. For example, if you want to be alerted when the CPU level of your hosts are going above a certain threshold, you can group by the host name. And when you get the alert notification, you can see for every host that crossed the threshold, you can see the value and the level of the CPU percentage that triggered this alert.
Great, thanks so much, Aryeh. If you could quickly go to the presentation, just so I can show everyone Open Observe. Yep. So one last thing before we end the webinar, just wanted to make you all aware of an event we announced earlier this week, Open Observability. It's going to be a very open event. We're just going to talk about open source technologies and their ability to help you gain observability into your environment. You can hear from folks from Jaeger, from Logz.io, from Grafana, and other open source communities. So we're excited about it, and feel free to hit this link when this is sent to you afterwards. We'd love to see you there. So thanks everyone so much for attending. Thanks Aryeh for presenting today.
Thanks guys, thanks for joining.
All right, take care everyone.